Before you walk the wrong path, let me tell you something that most people will never admit. Your biggest mistake in life probably won't feel like a mistake. It won't look dangerous, it won't look reckless, it won't even feel wrong. In fact, it will probably feel comfortable. That's the trap. The decisions that destroy most lives are rarely the dramatic ones. They aren't the obvious disasters everyone can see coming. They're the quiet choices, the reasonable choices, the choices that make sense in the moment, but slowly steal years from your future. And here's the unsettling truth. By the time most people realize they're heading in the wrong direction, they've already invested too much time, too much energy, and too much of themselves to easily turn around. Think about that for a moment. What if the greatest threat to your future isn't failure? What if it's confidence? Confidence that you're doing the right thing, confidence that you're making progress, confidence that the path you're walking today will eventually lead somewhere meaningful. What if that's the very illusion keeping you trapped? History is filled with intelligent people who worked hard, stayed disciplined, sacrificed endlessly, and still ended up living lives they never truly wanted. Not because they lacked talent, not because they lacked ambition, but because they spent years climbing a ladder that was leaning against the wrong wall. And the frightening part, they didn't know it while it was happening. They woke up every morning believing they were moving forward, only to discover later that movement and progress are not the same thing. That is why this video matters. Because today we're going to uncover the hidden signs that you're drifting off course before the damage becomes irreversible. We're going to explore the psychological traps, the invisible mistakes, and the dangerous illusions that quietly redirect people's lives without them ever noticing. And no one understood these dangers better than Machiavelli, not the cartoon villain history often portrays, not the mastermind of manipulation people love to criticize, but the observer of human nature. The man who understood why intelligent people sabotage themselves, why good intentions often create bad outcomes, and why so many individuals spend their entire lives serving goals they never consciously chose. What you're about to hear may challenge some of your assumptions. It may force you to question decisions you've already made. It may even make you uncomfortable. Good. Because awareness begins where comfort ends. And if this video found you today, perhaps that's not an accident. Perhaps there's a reason you're hearing this message right now. Because one strategic correction made today can save you years of regret tomorrow. So before you take another step forward, ask yourself one question. Are you truly choosing your path, or are you simply following one? Let's find out. Number 1. Question every path before you commit. Let me ask you something most men never have the courage to ask themselves. What if the life you're building isn't actually yours? Not the polished answer, not the answer you'd give your friends, not the answer you'd post online, the real answer. Why are you doing what you're doing right now? Because if we're being brutally honest, most men never choose their path. They inherit it. A father points one way, a teacher points another. Society hands them a script. The internet sells them an identity. And without ever stopping to question it, they spend the next 10 or 20 years acting out a role they never consciously chose. Look around. How many men wake up before sunrise, sit in traffic, work jobs they secretly hate, chase promotions they don't even want, and call it success simply because everyone else does? That's not freedom, that's programming. And the frightening part is that it doesn't feel like a trap. It feels normal. I once heard about a man who spent 15 years climbing the corporate ladder. 15 years. He sacrificed weekends, relationships, his health. Eventually he got the position he'd been chasing. And when he finally got there, nothing. No pride, no fulfillment, no sense of victory, just a quiet feeling he couldn't shake. I don't even know why I wanted this. Imagine giving 15 years of your life to a destination you never questioned. That's how most people lose, not through failure. Through unconscious commitment. Machiavelli understood something that still makes people uncomfortable today. Most people are reactive creatures. They don't move toward a vision, they move away from disapproval. They chase acceptance, they chase security, they chase validation. and they mistake that movement for purpose. But there is a huge difference between moving and advancing. A man can be busy every hour of every day and still be walking in the wrong direction. In fact, some of the most exhausted men are the furthest from where they actually want to be. Here's the dangerous part. When you follow a path you didn't choose, you're not just wasting time. You're becoming useful to someone else's agenda. Someone is benefiting from your obedience. Someone is profiting from your predictability. Someone is building their future while you're postponing yours. That's why independent thinking isn't arrogance, it's survival. Before you commit to any path, attack it with questions. Where does this road actually lead? Who benefits if I stay on it? What will my life look like in 5 years if I continue exactly as I am? And here's the question that exposes everything. If nobody could see my success, would I still want this? Most men don't want the thing itself. They want the status attached to it, the applause, the validation, the image. Remove the audience and suddenly the dream disappears, and that's when you know it was never your dream. The strongest men aren't the ones who move fastest. They're the ones who stop long enough to make sure they're not walking into a prison disguised as an opportunity. Because a life built on unquestioned choices isn't your life. It's someone else's plan wearing your face. Before you say yes to any path, ask why, then ask it again, and keep asking until the answer belongs to you. Number 2, stop seeking approval. There's a truth most men never say out loud. Not because they don't know it, but because admitting it would force them to confront how much of their life has been controlled by other people. Here it is. A shocking percentage of your decisions were never really yours. They were negotiations. Negotiations with your friends, with your family, with society, and with strangers you'll never meet. Think about it. How many times have you stayed quiet when you should have spoken? How many times have you agreed with something you knew was wrong just to avoid tension? How many times have you abandoned a goal, changed your opinion, softened your standards, or lowered your expectations because you felt the pressure of someone else's judgment? Most men don't realize they're doing this. They call it being nice, being mature, or being diplomatic. But often it's something much uglier. Fear. Fear of rejection, fear of criticism, fear of being disliked. And fear has a way of disguising itself as virtue. Machiavelli understood something most people spend their entire lives missing. The man who needs approval is never free. Because the moment your emotional state depends on other people's reactions, they own a piece of you. Maybe not all of you, but enough. Enough to influence your decisions, enough to redirect your path, and enough to make you betray yourself when the pressure becomes uncomfortable. Watch people carefully. The world constantly reveals this dynamic. The employee who never challenges his boss even when he knows the boss is wrong. The man who changes his personality depending on who enters the room. The guy who says what everyone wants to hear and slowly loses all sense of who he actually is. At first, people reward him. They smile, they approve, they accept him. But something else happens beneath the surface. They stop respecting him, because human nature is strange. People often appreciate compliance while secretly admiring conviction. They may enjoy the man who always agrees, but they follow the man who doesn't need permission. That's a hard truth, a dangerous truth, and one that most people will never fully accept. I once knew a man who spent years trying to be liked by everyone around him. He never argued, never pushed back, never made anyone uncomfortable. Everyone described him as a great guy. Then one day he faced a serious crisis, and something happened that shattered his illusion. The same people he'd spent years pleasing suddenly disappeared. The approval vanished overnight. The invitations stopped. The support never came, and he learned a brutal lesson. Attention is not loyalty. Acceptance is not respect. Popularity is not power. Most men discover this too late. They spend decades performing for an audience that would replace them tomorrow without hesitation. That's why seeking approval is so dangerous. It trains you to become predictable. And predictable men are easy to control, easy to manipulate, easy to pressure, easy to guilt, easy to steer. The strongest position you can occupy is not being loved by everyone. It's being willing to disappoint people when necessary. Not out of arrogance, not out of hostility, but because your direction matters more than their comfort. The moment you stop asking, will they approve, and start asking, is this right for my future, everything changes. Your posture changes, your decisions change. The way people treat you changes, because conviction has a presence that approval-seeking can never imitate. Remember this: every time you betray your own judgment to gain acceptance, you pay for it with a piece of your self-respect, and that price is always higher than people realize. Number 3. Study people before you trust them. One of the most expensive mistakes a man can make is believing that betrayal comes from enemies. It usually doesn't. It comes from people he lets stand too close. The wrong ally can do more damage than 100 opponents. Read that again. Because most men spend their lives looking for opportunities while completely ignoring the people attached to those opportunities: the wrong business partner, the wrong friend, the wrong mentor, the wrong woman, the wrong person who gains access to your mind before they've earned access to your trust. And by the time the damage becomes visible, it's already too late. Years are gone, money is gone, opportunities are gone, sometimes your reputation is gone. What makes this dangerous is that betrayal rarely arrives wearing a mask that says betrayal. It arrives smiling, it arrives helpful, it arrives supportive, at least in the beginning. Machiavelli understood something that most people desperately want to believe isn't true. Human beings are not primarily driven by loyalty. They're driven by self-interest. And once you truly understand that, the world starts making a lot more sense. The friend who secretly resents your success, the colleague who celebrates your win publicly but feels threatened privately, the business partner who is loyal while the partnership benefits him, the person who says, "I'd never do that to you," until circumstances change and suddenly they do. This isn't cynicism, this is pattern recognition. Pay attention to life long enough, and you'll notice something disturbing. People often reveal who they are long before they reveal what they're capable of. Most men simply aren't watching, they're listening. That's the mistake. Words are cheap, words cost nothing. Anybody can promise loyalty when loyalty requires no sacrifice. Anybody can claim respect when respect hasn't been tested. Anybody can say, "I've got your back." The question is, what happens when supporting you becomes inconvenient? That's where character begins. I knew a man who had a close friend for almost 10 years. 10 years. They trained together, worked together, spent weekends together, brothers essentially. Then a major opportunity appeared, a promotion. Only one could get it. Within weeks, that decade-long friendship completely changed. Information started leaking, conversations became different, small acts of sabotage appeared. Nothing dramatic, just enough to reveal what had always been there beneath the surface. Competition exposed what comfort had hidden, and that's exactly how life works. Pressure reveals people, scarcity reveals people, jealousy reveals people, success reveals people. You do not truly know someone when life is easy. You know them when they have something to gain from your loss. Watch how people behave when nobody is watching. Watch how they talk about others behind closed doors. Watch how they handle responsibility when they make mistakes. Watch how they react when someone else wins. That last one is huge, because envy is one of the most hidden forces in human nature. People will forgive your failures far more easily than they'll forgive your success. Never forget that. The strongest men aren't paranoid. They're observant. There's a difference. Paranoid men assume everyone is dangerous, but observant men simply refuse to ignore evidence. Trust should not be given quickly. Trust should be earned slowly, not because everyone is bad, but because your future is too valuable to place in untested hands. Remember this: the people closest to you influence your standards, your confidence, your decisions, your habits, and eventually your destiny. Choose your circle carelessly, and you'll spend years paying for someone else's character flaws. Choose it wisely, and you'll gain an advantage that most people never even realize exists. Because success is rarely built alone, but destruction almost always enters through the wrong door. Number 4, control your emotions before they control your direction. Let me tell you something most men learn far too late. The biggest mistakes of your life will not happen because you lacked intelligence. They will happen because, for a few minutes, emotion hijacked your judgment, and in those few minutes, you became someone else. Think about your biggest regret. Not the small ones, the one that still replays in your mind at night. The relationship you should have left, the opportunity you should have taken, the message you should never have sent, the person you trusted, the bridge you burned. If you trace it back far enough, you'll usually find the same thing waiting at the beginning, an emotional state that made a temporary feeling look like permanent truth. That's how emotions operate. They don't whisper, they convince. When you're angry, you don't feel angry, you feel right. When you're afraid, you don't feel afraid, you feel cautious. When you're excited, you don't feel impulsive, you feel certain. That's what makes emotions dangerous. They disguise themselves as wisdom. Machiavelli observed this over and over again. Powerful men losing everything they spent decades building because they couldn't control a single moment. A king insulted in public starts a war. A businessman reacts from pride and destroys a partnership. A man discovers betrayal and immediately seeks revenge, only to create consequences that hurt him far more than the original offense. One emotional reaction, years of damage. And if we're being honest, you've probably lived some version of this yourself. Maybe it wasn't a kingdom, maybe it was a relationship, maybe it was a career, maybe it was a decision that felt justified in the moment but became painful in hindsight. Because emotion has a strange relationship with time, it magnifies the present and blinds you to the future. Anger screams, do something now. Fear whispers, stay where it's safe. Excitement seduces you into believing you've already won before the game has even begun, and most men obey. That's the uncomfortable reality. Most men are not controlling their emotions. Their emotions are controlling them. They simply call it instinct, but there is a difference between instinct and impulse. One is wisdom. The other is weakness wearing confidence as a disguise. Watch highly disciplined men closely. The men everyone secretly respects. The man who never loses control during an argument. The man who receives bad news and remains composed. The man who can walk away when his ego desperately wants to fight. People think these men feel less. They're wrong. They often feel more than everyone else. The difference is that they refuse to hand the steering wheel over to those feelings. That is power. Not domination over others, domination over others. And here's the secret almost nobody talks about. The strongest move is often doing nothing. Not forever, just long enough for clarity to return. Long enough for emotion to stop speaking and judgment to start speaking. A single hour can save you from a year of regret. A single day can save you from a decade of consequences. Before any major decision, ask yourself, would I make this same choice if I weren't angry? Would I make this same choice if I weren't afraid? Would I make this same choice if my ego wasn't involved? Those questions expose more truth than most people discover in years. Because the man who reacts is predictable, and predictable men are easy to manipulate, easy to provoke, easy to control. But the man who pauses, the man who remains calm while everyone else is emotional, he's dangerous, not because he's ruthless, because he's thinking while everyone else is reacting. Remember this. Emotion is information. It is not authority. Feel everything, trust nothing immediately, and decide only when your mind is stronger than your mood. Number 5. Avoid comfortable illusions. Let me tell you something most men never see, until it's far too late. The greatest threat to your future is probably not failure. It's comfort. Because failure gets your attention. Failure hurts, failure humiliates, failure forces you to adapt. But comfort? Comfort is silent. Comfort doesn't attack you, it seduces you. It convinces you that nothing needs to change, and that's exactly why it's so dangerous. Think about it. When a man is struggling, he becomes alert. He starts asking questions, he becomes resourceful, and he develops sharpness because reality leaves him no choice. Pressure creates movement, but comfort creates sleep. Not physical sleep, psychological sleep, the kind where years pass and you don't even realize you've stopped growing. I've seen this happen more times than I can count. A man gets a decent job, not a great one, just comfortable enough. The money covers the bills, the routine becomes familiar, and the urgency disappears. Then 5 years pass, 10 years pass, and one day he wakes up staring at a life he never consciously chose. Not because he failed, Because he settled. That's the trap nobody talks about. Most men don't lose their future in one catastrophic decision. They lose it through 1,000 comfortable days, one after another, almost invisible. Machiavelli understood something brutal about power. The greatest danger isn't the enemy you can see, it's the illusion of security that makes you lower your guard. The moment a man believes he has arrived, he begins to decay, slowly, quietly, almost imperceptibly. Because nature rewards adaptation, not comfort. Look around. How many people are staying where they are because it's right? And how many are staying because it's familiar? There's a difference. The relationship that's no longer growing but feels safe. The city you've outgrown but refuse to leave. The business you've stopped believing in but continue operating. The dream you've postponed for so long that you've started calling the postponement being realistic. That one hits hard because deep down, most men know exactly where they've compromised. They know, they just avoid looking directly at it. And the mind is incredibly creative when it comes to defending comfort. It could be worse. Maybe next year. Now isn't the right time. I'm being practical. No, most of the time, that's not wisdom speaking. That's fear wearing a reasonable disguise. The frightening part is that the voice sounds logical, it sounds responsible, and it sounds mature. That's why so many men obey it. Comfort rarely tells you to quit, it simply tells you to wait. And waiting becomes a lifestyle. Then suddenly you're 40, 50, 60, wondering where the fire went, wondering what happened to the version of yourself that once wanted more. Here's the question I want you to sit with honestly. Is your current situation making you stronger, or is it making you softer? Not happier, not safer, stronger. Because those are very different things. A comfortable cage is still a cage, and many men spend their entire lives decorating it. The strongest men understand something most people never will. Growth feels uncomfortable, expansion feels uncomfortable, transformation feels uncomfortable. That's not a flaw, that's the price. If your environment no longer challenges you, it is slowly weakening you. If your routine no longer demands growth, it is slowly shrinking you. If your path no longer requires courage, you're probably standing still. Remember this, comfort that protects your present while stealing your future is not safety. It's one of the most sophisticated forms of self-destruction ever invented. And the most dangerous part, it doesn't feel like destruction while it's happening. It feels like peace. Number 6. Think in consequences, not moments. Most men don't lose because they're weak. They lose because they're short-sighted. And the scary part, they usually don't realize it until the bill arrives, because every decision has two prices. The price you pay now, and the price you pay later. Most people only see the first one. That's why they stay trapped. They choose what feels good in the moment, what removes pressure, what delivers relief, what feeds the ego, what satisfies the urge. And for a brief moment, it works. That's the deception. The immediate reward creates the illusion that the decision was good. But life doesn't grade your choices immediately. Life sends the invoice later. Machiavelli understood something that separates powerful men from average men. Average men think about today, powerful men think about the consequences of today. That's a completely different game. Think about how many lives have been quietly destroyed by decisions that felt good for a few minutes. The man who ignores his finances because spending feels better than planning. The man who avoids a difficult conversation because silence feels easier than confrontation. The man who keeps returning to the same toxic situation because loneliness feels more uncomfortable than dysfunction. The man who chooses entertainment over development every night and then wonders why his life looks exactly the same 5 years later. None of these decisions feel dangerous. That's why they're dangerous. Nobody ruins their future in a single day. They do it one comfortable decision at a time, one rationalization at a time, one excuse at a time. Then one morning they wake up and discover they didn't choose a destination. They chose a pattern. And patterns always have destinations. This is where most men become emotional. They ask, "What do I want right now?" Wrong question. The real question is, what kind of consequences am I buying? Because every action is a purchase, every habit is a purchase, Every relationship is a purchase. Every compromise is a purchase. The only difference is that some costs are hidden. Machiavelli watched rulers destroy themselves because they chased short-term victories. A temporary alliance, a quick advantage, a convenient lie, a satisfying act of revenge. It looked brilliant in the moment. Then years later, the consequences arrived. And consequences arrived. And consequences are merciless. They don't care about your intentions. They don't care how good you felt when you made the choice. They only care about cause and effect. That's why strategic men train themselves to think differently. When everyone else is looking at the reward, they look at the cost. When everyone else is chasing immediate pleasure, they study long-term consequences. When everyone else is reacting emotionally, they're asking a colder question. If I repeat this decision for the next 5 years, where does it take me? That question exposes everything. Because the truth is, most men already know the answer. They know where the path leads, they just don't like what they see. And that's where self-deception begins. Here's a mental exercise that will save you from years of regret. Before any major decision, stop imagining the best-case scenario. Everybody does that. Imagine the worst realistic scenario, not paranoia, reality. If this goes wrong, what does it cost me? My money, my reputation, my future? Can I recover from it? Most impulsive decisions collapse under those questions, because emotion focuses on rewards, but wisdom focuses on consequences. Remember this: the man who thinks only about the moment becomes a prisoner of the moment. The man who thinks about consequences becomes the architect of his future. One is reacting to life, the other is designing it. And the difference between those two men becomes impossible to ignore over time. Number 7. Correct your path early and without ego. This is where most men lose. Not because they don't know what to do, not because they lack intelligence, not because they lack information. They lose because their ego becomes more important than the truth. And that's a dangerous place to be. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. Have you ever stayed committed to something long after you knew it wasn't working? A relationship, a career, a business, a friendship, a version of yourself. Deep down, you already knew. The evidence was there, the results were there, the feeling was there. But you kept going anyway. Why? Because walking away felt like admitting you were wrong. And for many men, that is unbearable. Not the failure itself, but the humiliation of acknowledging it. So they stay. They keep investing more time, more energy, more years, not because the path is right, but because their pride refuses to let them turn around. Read that again. Most men are not trapped by circumstances, they're trapped by the story they've told themselves about who they are. Machiavelli understood something that separates survivors from casualties. The most dangerous mistake is not making the wrong move. The most dangerous mistake is defending the wrong move after reality has already exposed it. Because reality doesn't care about your pride. Reality doesn't care how much time you've already invested. Reality doesn't care how badly you want your original plan to work. Reality only responds to what is true. And here's the brutal part. The longer you stay on the wrong path, the more expensive your ego becomes. I once heard a man say something I'll never forget. I knew after 6 months that it wasn't right. I stayed for another 8 years. Think about that. 8 years. Not because he didn't know, because he didn't want to admit he knew. How many men are doing that right now? How many are sitting in careers they secretly hate? Relationships they've emotionally outgrown? Businesses that stopped making sense years ago? Dreams that are already dead, but continue to consume their energy because abandoning them would damage their self-image. This is one of the most expensive forms of self-deception in existence. The need to appear consistent, the need to appear certain, the need to pretend that every decision you've ever made was correct. Strong men don't do that. Strong men adjust. Weak men defend. That's the distinction nobody talks about. People think strength means never changing your mind. No. Strength means having the courage to change your mind when the evidence demands it. The pilot who notices he's 2 degrees off course and corrects immediately arrives safely. The pilot who refuses to adjust because he doesn't want to admit he's wrong ends up somewhere he never intended to go. Life works exactly the same way. Small mistakes corrected early become wisdom. Small mistakes defended for years become tragedy. And here's the truth your ego never wants to hear. The years you've already invested are gone. Gone. You cannot recover them, you cannot negotiate with them, you cannot get them back. The only thing you can still protect is your future. That's why strategic men ask a different question. Not, how much have I already invested? But, if I started today from 0, would I still choose this path? That question destroys illusions. That question exposes reality. And that question has saved more men from long-term regret than almost any other. Because the goal is not to look right, the goal is to get it right. Results over appearances. Truth over pride. Reality over ego. The men who build extraordinary lives are not the men who never get lost. They are the men who notice early, adjust quickly, and move forward without needing their correction to look good. Most men don't realize they're on the wrong path until life sends them a bill they can no longer ignore. And by then, the price is rarely money, it's years. Years they can never recover. Years spent chasing the wrong goals, trusting the wrong people, fighting battles that never mattered, building lives that looked impressive from the outside, but felt empty when nobody was watching. And that's the part nobody talks about. The real damage isn't always external. The real damage happens inside. It's the slow death of certainty, the quiet erosion of belief. The voice that used to say, I can become more, slowly turning into a voice that asks, did I miss my chance? I've seen